Good evening, everyone. Time for another member update. This is the Dow Jones Industrials superimposed over the gold price provided by netdania.com. You can click on the link below. Now you can see the two parallel lines that I've drawn here, parallel horizontal lines, the one at the top here and then the one at the bottom. This is when we had started to come back into line, which is what I had expected to happen. And you can see it was happening quite rapidly, actually, and somewhat coinciding with Janet Yellen taking over the Federal Reserve. And you can see that this has reversed quite violently of late, and we're actually potentially going into new highs on the stock market. Gold is being hammered, not nearly as low as it was, but it does appear that they're trying to keep this insane trend intact of pumping up these paper financial assets and suppressing the real assets, which is gold and silver. Now we know why they're doing that. They're doing that because they don't want people in the real assets that they can't control. They want people in assets that they can immediately confiscate anytime that they declare a crisis. So I want to take you to this. I just happened to come across this. I'm just using this as an example. I was doing some research on all kinds of stuff, world maps and stuff. I happened to come across this Bagram airfield, which is this military airfield in Afghanistan. And just going through here, I just happened to come across this picture here, which is supposedly Obama at this Bagram airfield. And it's just, I don't know if it's just me, maybe it is just me, but it's just, to me, it's just laughable to see this obviously fake picture. This podium superimposed over, I don't know what this, a bunch of trucks, clearly very blurry. And you can see here, just I'm not a photographic expert by any means, but that's obviously a fake photograph. So why would they do that? I have no idea. I'm sure that the president was there at Bagram. I don't know why they created that obviously fake photograph, but they do, and they do these things all the time. It's almost like they're trying to get caught. Now this thing with Yellen. Yellen has now become kind of like the embarrassing old grandmother who you try to wheel out of the room when there's company because she just opens up her mouth and sticks her foot in it. That's basically what she does. Let's look at this article from Jeff Berwick at Dollar Vigilante, and he says that Janet Yellen has only been chairman of the Federal Reserve for less than 2 months, and I'm already convinced that she is the best thing to happen since Barack Obama was first elected and awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. And he says here, Yellen, the comedian. On Monday, she gave a speech in Chicago that had me spitting up my enchiladas in a burst of laughter so bad that I had to ask my maid to clean off my computer monitor. Her style, though, is a dramatic change from her predecessors. Alan Greenspan was so good at using language that was confusing and meaningless that the term Fed speak was coined to refer to his vague statements. In his book, The Age of Turbulence, Greenspan revealed that this method of avoiding the issues directly when a clear message wasn't desired was not unintentional. The confusion was used to prevent unintended jolts to the markets, as confusing statements are typically just ignored. In other words, Greenspan actually admitted to purposely saying unintelligible things, and no one found this odd. Ben Bernanke's style differed in that he did not just make up random sentences like some sort of Scrabble game, but actually spoke in English, but usually avoided any real substance, usually murmuring and looking scared. he would give short, curt responses to questions without really saying much and avoiding any real commentary. Janet Yellen, on the other hand, is quite verbose, it appears. The media disliked her first press conference because she actually stated some actual facts and info that the market could actually understand. So in her latest public speaking engagement yesterday in Chicago, she mostly talked about all manner of ridiculous things, as I'll point out. So they've got this doddering old senile grandma she's not allowed to speak about, and I don't know if you've noticed lately, but ever since that incident where she spoke and the market's absolutely tanked, gold accelerated to the upside and the stock market sold off, they've been trotting out this other Fed head. It's almost like she got a demotion. The most notable inanity that she used was that she used the same technique as the president uses at the State of the Union Theater. She actually brought up and went into great detail on the plight of three excuse me, on the plight of three different people. The only thing missing was having some hired mercenary from the barrio missing a limb to point at and request applause. She described how Doreen Poole lost her job during the Great Recession caused by the Federal Reserve, and despite her clerical skills, she still cannot find work. Then she spoke of Vicky Lira, who lost her job processing mortgage applications when the Federal Reserve caused a housing bubble and subsequent crash. And she spoke of Jermaine Brownlee, a construction worker who cannot find work after the housing crash. Now, it comes out subsequently that apparently two of these people, I don't know the rumors, two of these people had legal record or previous convictions, legal convictions. I don't know the truth of the story. So here's this inept old grandma who is not allowed to speak lest she actually tell someone the truth about how bad the situation is. So now it appears they're trying to get things underhand. Now this is what actually happened today. This is a article from Zero Hedge about this buying deluge, and you know that we have the tapering supposedly going on, which is the Fed not buying as much, in other words, not doing quantitative easing to such an extent as they were, and that means that they're only printing supposedly $65 billion a month, if any of that could be believed. But we see here in this article, they were actually responsible for increasing liquidity by $130 billion in just one day. Many are scratching their heads wondering how it's possible that with all of today's economic data misses, the stock market not only ignored all the relentless bad data as it has for the past 5 years, yes, the weather, we know, but managed to surge to a new all-time high. Not us. We forecast precisely what would happen yesterday when we brought our readers' attention to what was a record Fed-assisted window dressing operation in the form of some $242 billion in reverse repo treasuries being provided to dealer banks in order to make their books look attractive for quarter end. Specifically, we noted yesterday that one should consider that tomorrow, with their books well padded for the March 31st daily security holdings, the bank will almost certainly unwind over $100 billion, if not more, of today's reverse repo, an amount that is now equal to nearly a full 2 months of QE. Where that money will go, only the New York Fed and a few bank CEOs know. Today we know not only where that money went, as was implied, it went in risky assets, i.e. the S&P 500. But more importantly, we also got that number right. Today's reverse repo was amounted to just $113 billion at $130 billion liquidity release from the Fed's reverse repo operation in just one day. So there is a 1-day injection of money printing, and you can see here on the chart. You can see that it's clearly accelerating. This is the reverse repos, and that is growing. So the Fed is printing money. We know they have to print money because we know that the Congress has never done anything significant or realistic about the budget deficit. Now, we had Paul Ryan today, who's always trotted out as the sort of conservative scapegoat to come up with some fake balanced budget. Of course, it's always 10 years out. This is a game they just play over and over again, and there's no real substance behind it. It's about as real as this picture of Barack Obama at the Air Force Base. So if we look at the 10-year note, we can see here that the 10-year note is hovering at what appears to be a breakdown, an attempted breakdown from a long, we're on the weekly here, but if you want to see the long-term view, you can go to the Morse-free charts, but you can see a very, very large top being put in here on the 10-year. If we go out to the 30-year bond, you see the same thing, sort of thing forming up here. A very, very large long-term top being put in interest rates. So it's the same story that we've been seeing for years and years. They're still fighting to keep from the inevitable happening, and of course the longer they fight, the longer we have Fed speak that doesn't even make any sense anymore, talking about sob stories and things. The longer that we have these injections of money, $130 billion in a day, the farther they put this off. Ultimately, the greater the collapse that's going to occur when things finally correct back to normal. And we'll talk to you next time.